little record button going.
Yep, I see it's right there.
All right. Hello. Do you still agree to the consent and the release of this podcast?
Yes, I do.
Excellent. Welcome
However,
back. Welcome back, everybody. My guest is Matthew today. I know him from Legacy Jiu Jitsu. Shout out to Legacy. The first thing I want to say about him is that I met him in his class doing Jiu Jitsu. He's a black belt in Jiu Jitsu. And I knew he was a family guy there. So I think I saw his wife and his kids one time at Toys R Us. And I heard an interesting story about you. I'll probably let you tell it a little bit later. But
sure.
can you just go ahead and tell the listeners a little bit about yourself, Matthew?
Yeah, hi guys. Matthew Pollino. Yeah, Jiu-Jitsu black belt under Alberto Crane from Legacy Jiu-Jitsu in Burbank. And prior to COVID, I was lucky enough to go to Ventura, California, and teach for Frangina Miller at Paragon headquarters. And then COVID came along and just kind of crushed everything. So here we are.
There you go.
No.
Yeah. Where you from, Matthew?
Originally Brooklyn, New York. I was
Cool.
born there.
That's where I'm from, brother.
Oh yeah. And I left at a young age. My parents moved to Las Vegas, and that's where I kind of grew up. And then I wanted to be an actor, so I ended up moving to LA. Silly me, but it was good. Good experience.
Yeah.
I've touched the brass ring. I did accomplish some good goals, but not quite to the extent that I wanted to. And
Right.
now we're out here. But yeah, it was good. Las Vegas, New York, Las Vegas, LA,
LA.
Ventura. Um,
Yeah.
what else can I say?
Well, that's a big difference going from Brooklyn to Vegas. How old were you when you made that change?
I was young. I think I was just turning 6 at the time,
Oh yeah, very young. Yeah.
very young. But being raised by everyone in out in the West in a back East household, it's never really left me. People always say, "Hey, where are you from? You're from back East, aren't you?" And I don't try to put it on or try to hide it. It kind of comes out. The little East Coast vibe.
Yeah, yeah.
And
Are you from Italian descent?
no, actually, everybody thinks I'm Italian because of my last name, but from my understanding, it was shortened from something else before I was born. My mom and dad were Jewish, but I don't know. I mean, I know I have some like Polish and Russian ancestry
Uh-huh.
on my grandmother's side. On the other grandparents' side, I'm not too sure. I've always wanted to go check out one of those ancestry sites just
Yeah.
to kind of dig through and see what I could find. And I never interested me before, but as you grow older, you kind of like, wait, where do I come from? What am
Right.
I? What is Jewish or what is just being a human being? How far back can they trace these things?
Yeah.
But yeah, that's it, man.
Yeah, I did the DNA thing because I was really, really interested, and I ended up with being like, because I'm from the originally my ancestors come from Puerto Rico, which is the Caribbean, and that was sort of like the gateway into the new world. So everyone coming from the old world would stop there. So the
Right.
gene pool there, it's so mixed. I had like 27 different nationalities or something like that
Isn't that
mixed up in
amazing?
me. Yeah,
How they can take, you send a drop of blood or whatever, and then they
yeah,
tell you all these things. And it's like, so yeah, man, people are like, I'm a proud Puerto Rican, I'm a proud Jew. But then to get into that stuff, it's like, well, you're 87% this and 2% that. Where'd that come from?
yeah,
Who, who
yeah.
down the line did what with who? How do we get there? So
Yeah.
I think it's pretty fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, if you believe, I mean, I don't know what you believe. Everyone has different beliefs, but the theory of Darwin and everything starts from a single organism. So we're all related in somehow. So when we have these different, this person's Jewish, this person's that, but if you think about it in reality, we're all just one from one thing. Yeah, there's differences because these groups of people become isolated, and then differences in those genes happen. That's how they could tell where your ancestry came from and stuff like that. But I'm really fascinated in the story. Like I love the story of people starting off in one place, moving to another place because of one reason or another place. I wish when I had the ancestry thing, it would be like an Assassin's Creed thing. that I could see every ancestor. Like, what made you guys? Why'd you leave? What happened?
Yeah, that's quite interesting. I like what Bruce Lee said in an interview. He said, it just so happens under the heavens, we're all one family.
Yeah.
We're just different, you know. And then I lean toward biblical stuff when you talk about the Darwinism and creation versus
Mhm.
evolution. It's like, hey, man, yeah, God said it, and bang, it happened. There's your Big
Right.
Bang theory. Some people don't agree, some people do
Right.
agree, but I've listened to both sides, and I tend to lean the biblical way. I
Yeah.
like that. And again, going back to genealogies, um, I always remember in the movie, it was the second. Um, Interview with a Vampire, the loosely based sequel.
The
Uh,
queen something like
yes,
that.
yes, Queen
Yeah.
of the Damned. Yes, with
Queen
the
of the
Leah.
Damned.
Yeah, yeah, Queen of the Damned. They have a nice. I guess it's like a mural in one of the scenes,
Hmm.
and it's a tree, and on the tree is everybody's names, and it's just this. It's a really beautiful piece, and I often thought about that, like you said, going back through history and seeing your ancestors. I look at the wall in my apartment, and I'm like, you want to start writing on it. Well, okay, here's mom and dad. Here's their mom and
Yeah.
dad. Here's their mom and dad. And then how that, if you sit there and think about it without trying to draw it up, but you just get lost because it just goes like that. The
Yeah.
genealogy, and that's just like incredibly painstaking task. Like, how far back can we go? How
Yeah.
far back can I figure out who's who through pictures and word of mouth? And of course, people grow up and they pass away, and that information is lost.
Yeah.
But
Exactly. I understand what you mean, like kind of about like going back and stuff. I think as you get older, and maybe some people when they're younger, but for me more so as I got older, I've always kind of questioned myself, like, who am I? Why am I here? And
yeah,
I think having a history helps with that. You know what I mean? I don't know if you ever heard this, but the Chinese used to have a tradition. I don't know how strong the tradition is anymore. And plus, their history is full with turmoil. That some of it's probably lost and stuff like that. But each family used to write, like it's like on a scroll or something, sort of like their family history. Like I'm such and such. I'm a farmer. I have something brothers. I did this. I did that, and then they would pass it on. And some families got it going back like 1,000 years. That's crazy, man. I would love to go back and talk to or read about my great, great, great something from 1,000 years ago, man. I wish we were doing that.
it is really neat. I actually have something from my, I guess my dad's mom, because I never knew the grandfather. I just knew like she had remarried somebody else. But I have a book like that thick. When she was, we're going back. I looked at it. And it was pretty neat to actually hold that piece in my hand and read through it. I still have it. She has all these postcards with writings on it, or these letters with writings on it, and they're standing at the Greek ruins.
Oh,
Something you see your
wow.
friends post today on Instagram or
Right.
Facebook, like, oh, we went to Greece and we have to go check out this, and then we went over here to Rome. We're checking out this, but then like to actually see pictures, and again, we're going back more than 70 years,
Wow.
and she was standing there on those steps in front of those ruins with her husband, and then wrote about the events of that day from a cruise or a plane ride or where they were. And it's just kind of brings it just more into focus, like, wow, man, I mean, this is really real. This is someone who I actually knew. And you have these pictures that date back. So like you said, yeah, I mean, could you imagine finding something where it's like, yeah, this is from the year 1859, and this is whatever my great 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 grandfather
Yeah.
who was a farmer or was in the World War, going into the 40s or something. That's amazing.
Yeah, it
you know.
is. There's a show on that. I think it's on PBS called Genealogy. Have you heard of it? They'll
I
get like
have.
famous actors and stuff like that, and they'll do their genealogy and look at their history. Like
Oh
I
wow.
saw one with Chris Rock. I love him. He's so funny. And he found that one of his ancestors fought in the Civil War, and you could just see it in his face, like how proud he was.
I watched those Ken Burns documentaries.
Oh, he's great. Yeah.
Kind of good for studying for what I do outside of teaching jujitsu. But yeah, amazing. I watched that whole Civil War documentary on one of the, Netflix or Hulu or whatever. But um, And I'm just fascinated. One, I love the narration and the people doing the voiceover, but um, amazing stuff you don't learn in school, you know, and just to hear their letters and their thoughts from the actual people that were
Yeah,
there. Of course,
yeah.
being narrated by an actor or a voice guy who did very good job, by the way. Yeah, it's very heartfelt and very touching. So I can imagine he must have been very proud. Like it was something, you know, to hear their sides of the story and what they went through
Hmm.
and how they lived. And then looking at these pictures, you know, wow, there's a little baby, and that
Yeah,
baby's been gone. You know, it grew up, the person he or she became, and then they've been gone, like just by sheer timeline. They have to be gone by 50, 60 years by now. You know,
yeah,
it's like,
yeah,
wow, that person, oh my goodness, you know, or they had a kid that was born in the 50s, you know, and it's mind boggling. It really is.
yeah. I love that documentary. I remember being touched by it too. The same way. A point of it that caught me was I guess they would fight and they would have like breaks in the fight. You know what I mean? And the camps would be right next to each other, and the South and the North would come up to the line, right straight up to the line, and talk to each other. Like, hey, what's up, bro? What's going on? You know what I mean? And what they talked about the most, or what they were interested in the most, was coffee. So
Wow.
if I had grounds, but I didn't have, I don't know, hot water, if I didn't have sugar or something, they would talk to the other side and they would barter and make coffee and drink
Yeah.
coffee. That's I thought that was insane, man.
Yeah, it is. It's a ridiculousness, like the rules of engagement. You know,
All right.
we can go to war, we can smash each other, but we have to do it by this guideline. Otherwise, we'll be in trouble. I'm like,
Yeah.
I don't get that at all. But you know,
Yeah.
it is what it is. Yeah, it
What's
was
the
pretty
crazy thing?
interesting. I watched like what 10 or 15 hours of that documentary, and then I got into the World War One or two documentary that he has out. And again, just stuff you don't learn in high school in the history classes. And it's like,
Yeah.
wow, there's so much more to it if you go back and you study. I mean, I didn't even know I was interested in that stuff until I watched it because, like I said,
Exactly.
I
Yeah.
the narration. I'm like, man, this is really good,
Yeah.
really interesting. Like, what would we have done in that time period? And can you imagine, like, again, what being injured on the battlefield, no medication. Like, I mean, they
No
take a stick
anesthesia.
and a rope and tie it around your leg. Wow, man! And the pictures of all those people, just how they looked, and it just
Yeah.
it was
And
it's
we think we have it hard today, huh? Those
yeah.
guys.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. I use that comparison when the whole COVID thing started. You know, I might have offended some people, but it's like, you know, I saw a post like, you're being asked to sit down, take some money, watch Netflix, and relax
Put a
until
mask on.
we figure out what's going on with this whole thing. And then, yeah, I'm watching these documentaries in the meantime on Hiroshima where they're dropping bombs on people, and you know, there's no communication, there's no electricity, there's no water, you know, there's dead bodies in the street, you know, it's like, yeah, we don't have it that bad, guys.
Yeah. Yeah. Same thing here, man. Me being in Korea, if you know the history of it, they call Korea the Forgotten War, and it really is because things that happened here were horrible. These people had it so hard. It was brutal.
Wow. Yeah, I don't know anything about
Yeah.
that.
There's a
We're talking
documentary. I don't know if Ken Burns did one, but there's some good documentaries out there, man. If you could find it, it's pretty hard. People were starving to death, eating cats and dogs, like just yeah. Families were split because the country got split. You know what I mean? Kind of like
that's
in
scary.
Germany.
Yeah, that's scary, man.
Yeah.
I
All right, we're
mean,
being a little too morose here, brother.
yeah, I know, I'm sorry, but you know what, what I want to say about that is like
Yeah.
people have survived these
Yes. We
atrocities and
overcome.
more,
Yeah.
and have adapted and flourished and survived. And so to hear people from like Hiroshima speaking about the events of the day, that person was alive, he was actually there, he's got the scars to prove it, he's got the history to prove it. And then to see what type of individual he or she had become today, just like with the Twin Towers, someone survived that, and then they could talk
Right.
about it 50 years later. You know, that it's pretty amazing. But yes, we can adapt and survive and prosper in the face of different adversities and atrocities. It's terrible, but let's be happy.
Be
A lot
happy.
to be miserable about,
Yeah.
right?
So it just occurred to me that actually the first time I've ever saw you was acting in a show that I loved.
What?
You were in the Shield. That was actually the first time I saw you. And then I think I met you and didn't recognize you because you look quite different at the time when I met you.
Chameleon,
What?
man.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I don't know how many years later that was, but I remember I saw the episode. I saw you, and then I don't know how many years later, like we started taking classes, and I met you there, and then I guess I watched it again or something, and then I was
Son,
like, "Hey, that guy."
that's funny, man. That's cool.
Yeah, yeah. So tell us a little bit about that passion, because I think you had a passion for martial arts first.
Absolutely.
So talk
Uh,
about that as a kid and that passion.
yeah, everybody that knows me that has spoken to me about martial arts, basically, you know, when we moved to Las Vegas, I started learning some martial arts, just like little kung fu stuff from this guy down the street, right? Like in his garage, who knows
That's
what I
old
was,
school, man. Yeah.
stretching and snake stance and horse stance and reverse punches and all these kung fu moves. And then I think he told my dad or something about Enter the Dragon, and we should go
Mm,
down to see it. It was playing downtown in Las Vegas, like on Fremont Street. I remember that.
wow.
And I don't know. I remember seeing it when I was like 8 years old in the theaters with my parents, and I saw Bruce Lee, of course, like wow, you know. And I don't know when it happened, but I just said that's what I want to be when I grow up. Like, wow.
Yeah.
Um, and then I started like just learning martial arts. I started learning, I started pretend acting with friends from movies or TV shows we were watching, like kids do. We just play in the yard and you use a stick for a machine gun or set up an acting scenario. But I ended up with a couple of friends of mine, and I joined a Taekwondo school when I was like 14. And I never stopped.
Nice.
I never stopped training. This, as a matter of fact, from March of last year when COVID hit till
Hmm.
now, has been the longest I've ever gone without doing any kind of training at all. I mean,
Wow.
I'll do a little bit of stretching here and there, but like I have done no jujitsu, no boxing, no weightlifting, nothing. Just, working, trying to make money, trying to get my voiceover career
Right.
off the ground, like flying high. It
Right.
is off the ground. It's just not where I want it to be.
Right. Right.
Uh,
Me too.
Yeah, I know, right? You gotta start somewhere before you can be Joe Rogan, right?
Exactly.
Or Howard Stern. But yeah, so I just saw it. I was inspired by him, and then I started getting from friends like lessons and books and magazines, anything Bruce Lee, martial art related, how to work out at home. Those little karate books, knuckle push-ups on the concrete floor, that sort of
Yeah.
thing,
Yeah.
like 1970. And then, I just kind of decided at a young age that I wanted to be an actor. I liked entertainment, I
Yeah.
liked entertaining people. I liked how it made me feel, like how I made them feel. I like the feelings that I get when I watch a good action movie or a good dramatic acting scene and performing. It was really cool. And so I never stopped. And then Taekwondo, they opened up a Thai boxing gym right across the way in this
Wow.
corridor. So I went over there and I was going after school, 2 hours at the Thai boxing gym. And then there was a judo guy there teaching judo as well
Oh, wow.
from Cuba. And I worked with him. And actually, he was actually a friend of my dad's. We didn't know for a few months until they saw each other there.
Small
They worked
world. Yeah.
yeah, together. So the guy took me under his wing, and so I was doing Thai boxing, judo, Thai boxing, whatever at that place, and then from 4 to 6, I'd be doing Taekwondo right across the hall, and then one thing just leads to another, and you just find different gyms to train at or different things that suit your fancy, spark your interest. I got into Thai boxing and shoot fighting with One Kick Nick out in Las Vegas. He was awesome coach, and then '93 Hoist Gracie won the UFC. I saw it the first night. The next day, I was in the
The
gym.
world turned upside down. Yep.
I was in the gym trying to emulate him. What we saw, and I got the jujitsu bug like everybody else at that time. And it was a way, way, way different jujitsu world for in America or at Las Vegas for sure
Hmm.
at that time to what it is now.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Um, and Yeah, and that was it. I believe like the martial arts community tried to run from it or defeat it, and
Yeah.
being a huge Bruce Lee fan and studying all of his writings, I embrace it. You know, he was showing those kind of things in his books, like wrestling and
Right.
jujitsu and sort of
Right.
thing. So I was like, I'm gonna learn this because it's freaking cool. You know, just
Yeah.
like I had really good kicks from Taekwondo, but my hands weren't very good. So I had to face those fears and I had to go learn those hand combat styles. You know, I mean, I learned a little bit of Wing Chun, a little bit of Tang Soo Do karate, but you know, boxing was where it was at, head movement and how to use your hands, your four
Right.
basic.
Right. Striking. Right.
Yeah, striking. But then you got Thai boxing where it's like, oh, elbows and knees, wow. And then you have, you know, headbutts too in certain styles from other countries. Whoa. And then again, you know, you get a good thing with grappling and jujitsu. And I'm still a big believer in, I always say in my classes, be the snake, you know, change levels and clinch. You know, if you can avoid strikes and either stay far enough away to not fight or get
Right.
close enough to not get hurt and control the situation.
Right.
And that's what I love about jujitsu. I really, really still believe in that art and the person's ability to use it. You know, I think it's really a user-friendly art.
Yeah, yeah. I remember, I'm sure you do back in the days that it was always like, well, what style is better? You know, they'd even have movies like that. So when that first happened, they were putting the styles against each other. I mean, I thought it was awesome. I'm not gonna lie, I had doubts though. I could like, is this real? I'm sure a lot of
Everybody,
people did. Like, is this
yeah,
real? You know what I mean? Because I would
right.
see him do like an arm bar or something. Like, is he really threatening that guy's arm? And then years later, I had someone put me in the arm bar. I was like, yep, that's gonna break if I don't tap. Yep.
Yeah, it's gonna break. Yeah. You know, and I always make a joke like let's just say you know, if Hoist would have got knocked out in the first UFC, we wouldn't be having this conversation.
Yeah.
Uh, but I truly believe that jujitsu is by far uh, probably the most well-rounded martial art for one-on-one unarmed self-defense.
Right, right. Yeah. I hear what you're
Period.
saying. Yeah.
It
Yeah.
just makes the most sense from a safety standpoint, from a legal standpoint.
Mm,
Um, and I teach in my classes a lot of times where, yeah, if I'm 25 and I get the guy's back, I could suplex him belly to back, and I can also go to prison for him cracking his head on the concrete, or I
exactly.
can hold him and push him away, or I can get his back and you know just like kind of trip him with an ankle sweep or something, throw him down and run away. I don't have to
Right.
engage with this individual, and that's why I think it's you know, that's why I say what I say. I just think it's a very user friendly art. And it is true, you know, of course, being in shape and physically fit and dexterous all play a factor, but those are attributes that you either come to the table with or you can develop. But let's say the average Joe, you know, throwing a punch versus like changing levels and applying a clinch. I think it's easier to change levels and apply a clinch versus to throw that punch and make it land so you don't hurt your hand or break your hand or hurt the other individual or you know what I mean? You have to be I just think it's just a better way to go, you know.
Yeah. You know, it reminds me of what we were talking about earlier, which is history. This grappling has been around since the beginning, since the Greeks, the Olympics. I remember even before the explosion of the Gracies, talking to a police officer about fighting. He was an ex-wrestler. And he
Mm,
said, learn to wrestle, he told me. He said, you think you're a tough guy here in Brooklyn? You know how it is. And he said, learn to wrestle, man. I said, wrestle. He told me, because I think we were having that conversation. What's the best art style, whatever. And he said, get into to wrestling is what he told me. And he said that, you know, that the military, the NYPD had done studies that 80% of fights end up on the ground.
yeah,
You know, he said, yeah, take wrestling. And he was kind of like a historian where he said, you know, the wrestling you see today is not the wrestling of old. The old wrestling was kind of like pancrase, where there was submissions, there was chokes, there was a lot of stuff like that back then. And I understood what he said, but I didn't know where to go with it from there. It wasn't until the Gracie showed, hey, this is, you know, we have schools, we have this system, these moves, you know, they really solidified what it was and how to get that knowledge for me, you know, even though there was nowhere around at the time that
of
I could
course.
do it,
Yeah.
you
You were
know.
lucky to find you know, black and white VHS tape that's got
Yeah,
bad tracking, you know. People are like, what is that? Nowadays, the younger crowd doesn't know what that is.
yeah,
Yeah, I like I said, I just think that it just makes sense. I have my own little, I guess you call them idioms, like, just because almost all fights go to the ground, when I tell my students, they don't have to stay there.
No.
It's the other person's ability to keep that person on the ground.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah, most fights do start standing up, but not all of them. I
Right.
used to work in nightclubs. I've seen a lot of stuff. You could be
Yeah,
sitting there like
yeah.
this and get blindsided. Bam, that didn't
Yeah.
start standing up.
It's
You're
not. Nope.
not ready for that, and then of course people always want to throw in like, oh, what about a knife and a gun? Look, man, more power to you if you want to engage that individual. But it's like if someone has a weapon,
You should
you
probably
know,
try to get away. Yeah.
knife or a gun, distance is your best bet.
Yeah.
Avoiding a situation is 100%, I think, the best bet. But um, you know, uh, it's hard enough, as as a grappler or even a boxer, how to hit someone, let alone, oh, well, how do you disarm this person with the knife? And then we
Yeah.
got, oh, what kind of knife is it? How far away is he? How long is
Yeah.
the blade? Is it double sided? Is it
How
single sided?
skilled is he with
How
that
skilled
knife?
is he? Does he have two knives?
Yeah.
Is he gonna
Does his
use
friend have
one?
a knife?
Yeah, is he gonna use Bruce Lee's train of thought. It was pretty cool. He's like, the average person has like whatever is it I don't know how many weapons, six, seven way. It was an even amount, like 2 feet,
Right.
two knees, two elbows, two hands, and a head.
Right.
That's pretty cool. And the average person with the knife has one weapon. They have the knife because
Uh-huh.
they're thinking of the knife. But
That's
that
it.
skilled
Yeah.
person has 13.
Yeah.
2 feet, two knees, two elbows, the head, two hands, and the knife.
Right.
So that was, again, train, where what the person's mentality is during the training. But man, it's hard enough to subdue a person that's really just trying to hit you in the face, let
Yeah.
alone defend a knife wielding or a gun or a stick wielding guy.
Okay.
So I just say, just train and be
Yeah.
cool, you
Be
know?
cool. I like that. So yeah, I took martial arts, karate, taekwondo when I was a kid. I don't remember who was teaching like kind of knife fighting, knife defense. But I've always remembered what the person said. I don't even remember who the person was, but it was first thing to do like with a knife. If you could avoid a conflict, avoid the conflict. So like distance or getting out of there or whatever. And he said, okay, but if you're gonna have to engage, be prepared. You're more than likely you're probably gonna get cut. You might be able to disarm the person with the knife, but you might get cut. You know what I mean? But his,
Absolutely.
his thing was, try not to get cut too bad where it's like it's a life-threatening thing. But superficial cuts or pretty deep cuts, you're probably going to get cut. So be prepared, for that.
It's scary. I've seen videos. I watch a lot of videos. I try to educate myself and help students, and I tell people about clinching. It's like go online and watch fights from around the world and watch how they almost all start, watch how they almost all end. You know, um, but yeah, people are tough. They're resilient. So I've seen both. I've seen like someone pull out a knife and the guy jump back and throw a right hand and got him.
Yeah.
Got him,
Yeah.
knocked him out. Wow. And I've seen the guy, they fight, bang, 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 and the guy got the better of him, bang, 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 bang. But in doing that, he got stabbed 6 times.
Yeah.
Didn't even know it.
Yeah.
Didn't
Adrenaline.
even know
Yeah.
it, man.
Yeah.
You
It's
know,
crazy.
uh, go watch Daniel Inosanto videos from like 25, 30 years ago, whatever. They have he did a series of videos where I think he actors in the room or whatever portraying armed guards, and then they're going to come in the room. He doesn't know what he's going to do or what kind of weapon he has. And this is Dan Inosanto, he's like a knife master, Bruce
Right.
Lee's sidekick. And they did these series of things where he just whipped out the knife whenever he felt like it. Oh, let me put down my luggage. Wham, 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 wham. And able to
Yeah.
simulate the stabbing of 4 people before they can even get a weapon or get their
Wow.
hands up. And
Yeah.
it's just like, that's how quick it could happen, man. And I've been in nightclubs where I've seen a lot of stuff go down, and it's like, avoidance is the best thing. Observe and avoid first before you ever engage, if you can help it. But yeah, that's just like, it's a moot point to even discuss, because once you start adding, again, people talk about the efficacy of jujitsu versus striking. What about a weapon? What about multiple attackers? And my old teacher would say, well, first of all, you can't even stop me from taking you down. What's going to make you think you can stop 3 guys?
Right. Yeah.
And it's a good one. And you don't even train, So, more than one person, unarmed or armed, for anyone is a problem,
Mhm.
most likely you're going to come out on the losing end, I think. But more misery to talk about.
Yeah. That's kind of a problem I've had with martial arts as far as the movies where you show these one guy taking out like 20, 40 people. It's like, come on, dude. Like, now, sorry, man. But hey, let's move on, man. Let's talk to me about coming out to LA, man, and then pursuing your acting and all that.
Well, thanks, man. Yeah, the claim to fame a little bit was The Shield. I Forrest got my way into that, which was good. I was trying my hardest to get on movie sets and go to my auditions and have agents and all that stuff. But The Shield was fun. It was a really good experience. I ended up first time getting a stunt job through a friend's cousin who was like a stunt coordinator.
Oh, so when you moved here, did you know somebody who had
No,
connections? Okay.
not really. No, that's a good one. No, I spent like 2.5, 3 years maybe traveling back and forth from
Mhm.
Vegas to LA. Just learning my way around, booking small jobs, trying to find people to represent me. Excuse me, trying to find a place to live.
Yeah,
Uh,
that's important.
yeah, and then I moved here, and then I got a job. The typical story of most people that come. I got a job working as a
Waiter
bouncer,
or
doorman.
bouncer?
No, yeah, I didn't do the waiting thing. Bouncer, doorman here and there, different clubs. Got the apartment, and then started pictures, resumes, going on casting calls and whatnot. The
And this whole
typical.
time you're still training martial arts, right?
Yeah, I mean, shortly after I moved here, I found a jujitsu studio and worked out and trained with that particular individual for like 11 years. And then, like I always say, it was like a bad relationship. I probably should have left in year 6. But I ended up going over to Alberto's over in Burbank, which is now Legacy Jiu-Jitsu. And within 6 months or so training there, I ended up teaching for him. And then not too long, kind of assisting, things like that. And then once I was promoted to black belt, he kind of turned me on to teaching. He had me go over to the school in Encino and kind of save that sinking ship. And
Nice.
and that ended up being like, I think I taught there for like 4.5 years. It's pretty cool.
So that
And
supplemented your income while
in
you were
addition,
pursuing the acting?
yeah, I mean, it was nightclubs. I did work at Universal Studios. That was fun. And a nightclub, Universal Studios. I was 7 nights a week in 3 different clubs, plus like 3 to 5 days a week at Universal Studios. And then I started getting clients and teaching jujitsu. And again, I think, Alberto Crane kind of set me on that path of, I just started teaching. I didn't plan on it. And then
Right.
lo and behold, I kept hearing the same thing. Hey man, you're a good teacher. Hey man,
Yeah.
do this. Hey man, I want to do privates with you. And I was like, it's kind of weird. Like, wow. And then all of a sudden I had privates out the door. It was pretty amazing. And still pursuing acting, still like, hey, I'm be late to class today because I have to go to this audition and trying to go.
Right.
But
Yeah.
yeah, it was back in like 2006. I ended up booking the Shield. I had done like 3 national commercials, which was pretty cool for like IHOP, Diet Coke, and Nike. Always using my talents, either martial arts or skating, which was
Right.
really great. The Shield came along. I started as a stunt guy through a friend who introduced me to his cousin, who I had met at my job at Universal. And even through that connection, it still took like over a year of back and forth to actually get on set with this individual. Then I did the job, and okay, that was it. Great, met everybody. And a few months later, I got a call to they want to interview me, which was an audition. But he's a stunt guy, so he used the word interview. And I'm like, I was sick as a dog, man. I didn't almost didn't even go. I almost didn't even go. I rolled
Wow.
off the couch, didn't even comb my hair, and I showed up. And I was just like, I don't know if I had the flu, but I was just really sick.
Was it nerves or you just got sick
No,
or?
I was sick. I was like
Okay.
literally sick.
Okay.
Um, and I said, "Hi, I'm here." And they're like, "Oh, this is an audition." Because I was told they wanted like someone who was cool with explosions going on around them while they're doing a scene. And I'm like, okay. And it was like, hey, read this. And I read it, and they were like, hey, that was great. They used some profanities in there. Like, it was effing great, but
Okay.
it was
Okay.
great. I was like, okay, are you effing nailed it? Something to that effect.
Yeah.
So I got this job, and it was the scene in The Shield where I get to try to blow up Forrest Whitaker with a grenade. And then they come in and arrest us because we're like these El Salvadorian drug gun smugglers, right?
Right.
And I did that, and then a few days later, like maybe a week or two later, I get a call. They want you to come back. I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa, this is cool. But now I said El Salvadorian. So when I did the audition, man, I just threw up the accent. Like I just did whatever,
Hispanic
Latin.
accent or something like
Yeah,
that.
I
Yeah.
could think of, right? I just did it. And I always make a joke about Hollywood. Yeah, I'm Latino in Hollywood and in Hollywood's eyes. And it's not what you are, it's what they think you are.
Right.
And on top of that, you put me in a room full of white guys. Yeah, I'm Latin. You put me in a room full of Mexican guys from LA, from East LA. I'm going to stand out like a sore thumb. I
Right.
can
Right.
blend in a little bit because that is what acting is,
Right.
but you're going to know that I'm not of that culture, right? So I get this thing delivered to my door when I come home from work. I found this thing. They're going to drop it off at work. It's like 11 pages of dialogue, dude.
Oh, geez. And you've
With
never done that before?
well, not only that. Remember, I just threw that accent up there and got the job, and it was very limited. It was like maybe like 10
Yeah.
words in the
Hola.
scene. Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly.
Yeah.
And man, it's 11 pages of dialogue, nose to nose with Michael Chiklis, the star of the show.
Wow. Wow.
And
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't know if I can pull this off.
Right.
So I had to call all the friends, man, all the homies. Who do you know that's El Salvadorian? Because I don't want to sound like Scarface.
Right.
I don't want
Right.
to sound Cuban Latin. I don't want to sound Spain Latin.
Sort of going to what you've heard before, right? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm like, again, hola, you really can't tell, but once you start talking to someone, you understand. Oh, that dialect. You're from Puerto Rico. This guy's from Brazil. You're kind of speaking the same language, but it doesn't translate over.
They can tell the difference. Yeah, definitely.
A little bit different, right? Different dialects. So I scrambled. I worked with a bunch of people that were friends that were El Salvadorian, and I pulled it off, and they bought it, and I did the job, and I actually got a residual check in the mail. I don't know how much, like a couple of pennies, I guess, nowadays, but it's funny. They keep sending those checks, and this was 2006, 2007. I wish they had a couple of zeros behind them, but I didn't get to that point, and then we ended up moving out of LA, and it's impossible to get to audition.
Okay. So that's kind of how I want to end the podcast, because I got to keep them under an hour is what I'm trying to do. Everyone talks or has heard or seen sort of the struggle of the up and coming actor. Shows that pop into my mind are kind of like Entourage, although he made it in Entourage, but it's about that world. I'm thinking of other shows, Ricky Gervais, Extras. Talk about that, like that struggle, that trying to go through it. Everyone. It seems like everyone in LA is trying to make it.
Oh yeah, I mean, and this is great because we could talk about these things for hours on end, and I'm no guru or anything. I could just give you my experiences. I always say, like, what we see, especially in America, is that those rags to riches story. Like, I love Arnold Schwarzenegger's story and Stallone's story. Yeah, but guys, for every Stallone and Schwarzenegger, there are like 8 million people that tried the same stuff and maybe even had what I call a better platform to spring from.
Right.
It didn't make it. Yeah. And you know what? There is no rhyme or reason. I don't think there's a rhyme or reason about it either. Pacino said it. They say, well, what kind of advice do you have? He's like, some of you will make it, some of you won't. And I like that saying. Yeah, 2 guys go to law school, one becomes Johnny Cochran, the other one ends up working in a bakery. Yeah. You can do your best, you can try your hardest, you can know all the people, and you just doesn't work. There's no rhyme or reason. And then, okay, you take matters into your own hands. Especially nowadays, it's a lot easier. You can definitely film everything on your iPhone, you can edit it in iMovie, you can do all the stuff for no budget at all. You don't need to rent a camera and put film in it and that kind of thing, which is what stops a lot of people. It's expensive. It's not easy. And to turn out a good quality product, then all your media platforms, it's so much easier now. Mm-hmm. But again, one person makes a movie on their iPhone and it blows up. And now you got every Tom, Dick, and Harry trying to make a movie on their iPhone, which is fine. It's commendable, but not everybody's going to be the next Spielberg. Right. And that person that blew up that one time, you might not hear about him again. So yeah, the struggle is number one, look, man, you got to get to LA. Well, nowadays you don't have to anymore. I mean, you could be in Atlanta, Texas, whatever. But, you know, finding a decent agent. First of all, find the job, place to live. How are you
Yeah.
going to pay rent? It's freaking expensive,
Oh
you
my
know,
God,
and
it's
the rents
crazy
just
in
go
LA.
up and up and up and up, dude. There's nowhere to freaking park. I'm not trying
Yeah.
to discourage anybody, but the reality of the stuff
Keeping it
that you
real. Yeah.
don't see.
Yeah.
I often thought I should have filmed every audition I went to. I should have filmed every predicament and cut up and made my own little in the life of,
Yeah. Yeah.
trying to do it, Now imagine you got to work a night job because your days have to be open for auditions. How are you going to rent that apartment if you don't have 2 or 3 people there living with you working? You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah.
uh, and then you get an agent. They make you jump through hoops to get an agent, and then most of the time that agent doesn't even get you out.
Yeah.
You don't even go to a damn audition.
Yeah.
Or one audition every other month. That's like 6 a year. That's not going to do anything.
Yeah.
Which is why I like voiceover a lot better. Um, which is why I'm into that now. But
Yeah.
yeah, I mean, the struggle, anyone, anything you're trying to do, man, there's going to be obstacles and struggles and problems. And just because you're persistent and you go after it with fervor and everything, it doesn't mean you're going to make it any less
Yeah.
than the guy that's sleeping in his car or the guy that's got the rich mom and dad. People have better opportunities, but I just don't, why does one thing catch fire and the other one doesn't? So
Yeah.
it is a struggle. It is definitely a struggle. Just be able to survive in LA, have a decent job, a decent place to live, a decent car to get around to point A to point B, to make it in that room for your less than 5 minutes to read for something, and then maybe you get called back, maybe you don't, maybe you book, maybe you get called back 2, 3 times, and then you don't book, no feedback. It's tough. It's tough. Gotta have thick skin for sure. It doesn't mean that you're not talented. It just, it's hard. Then people say, well, do your own thing. Well, that therein lies a whole nother
Oh
set
yeah.
of problems. I'm doing my own thing. Okay, but no one wants to film for free, and nor
Yeah.
should they, you know.
Right. Right.
Um, I have this idea. Well, so does everybody else. What makes your idea, you hear all these things, man. So I think I've learned a lot that I don't want to do it on the filmmaking side. With the voiceover, I have a lot more control of what I'm doing and how I present myself.
Right.
But for anyone that wants to be a filmmaker or an actor or an actress, absolutely. It's better to be, hey man, can I write this? Can I produce it? Can I direct it? Can I do my own thing and go to film festivals? I think if I had to do it over again, especially with today's technology,
Yeah.
the route, that is the more smarter route. Like someone said to
Yeah.
Taryn, did I go to film school? No, I went to film.
Uh-huh.
I went and I studied every freaking movie for the last 100 years.
Right.
And then I made Reservoir Dogs or whatever he did. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think that's good too, versus the traditional way of filmmaking, I
Yeah.
guess.
You're very like I said, I told the guys in the beginning, I heard that you had gotten injured one time. I think it was a neck or a back injury that
Yep.
was pretty serious. And when I heard that, and how I saw you seem fine. You know what I mean? But you seem to be a guy who has a lot of perseverance, tough skin. And I think that's a great quality. I think it's a quality that we're not teaching our kids that anymore. You know what I mean? Because today, if you're, let's talk about the soccer mom. If you want your kid to play soccer, your kid's gonna play soccer. When I grew up, and I'm sure when you grow up, you tried out for the local team. If you didn't make it, you didn't make it. You didn't play. You go to the backyard, you play with your dad or your mom or your cousins. Yeah, sure, you could do that all day. Kids on the street, especially in Brooklyn will play baseball and stuff like that all day. But I remember going out and trying out for the team and barely making it, just being like the last guy to get picked type of thing. You know what I mean? I think there's something rewarding to that struggle, man. That in this today's generation, listen, I talk to guys who talk to me about football as if they played football in high school or in college, and they're talking about video games. I'm like, what the man?
Yeah. It's I think it's neat to be exposed to all those things, and I'm gonna say given a fair shot to equally try it out. But like you said, yeah, if you're talking about making a team or making the cut, and I use jujitsu, like my old teacher would he was like a dictator, but I mean he had his good qualities too. But he was like kind of like the Marine standard. It's like we don't lower the bar for you.
Right,
It doesn't
right.
matter if you get right here. You have to get here
Over it,
to
right.
be considered a black belt in jujitsu
Right.
or a Marine or a legitimate in anything. But
Anything. Yeah.
when you lower the standard for the sake, for whatever, for you need to pay rent, for, here's your belt, or pay me money and I'll give you a black belt, whatever
Jeez. Right.
the
Yeah.
case may be, or let anybody play that doesn't, with kids it's difficult because you want to build
Yeah.
confidence,
Yeah.
self-esteem.
Sure. Sure.
Absolutely. But you also have to kind of draw the line somewhere,
Yeah.
I think. Can anybody do, like, these sports or games? I think most people can do anything they want if they put their heart and mind to it within reason. But there is a certain amount of, you have to have, I guess, grounded expectations, not lofty expectations. Don't set yourself up for failure. I watched the Michael Jordan documentary on Netflix,
Yeah.
and I'm not a basketball fan, but man, am I a Michael Jordan fan.
Yeah.
And I didn't think he was brash or a hole or anything.
Yeah.
I am like, wow, like his drive and his determination, even after everything he accomplished, he did it for the love of the game. He loved basketball and he was so good at it.
He loved
And those,
winning.
yeah, well, yeah, that too. But like, how do you get to win like that?
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
gotta
You got to
be,
put the effort. Yeah. The
dude.
time. Yeah.
Show me someone. I mean, Muhammad Ali, Michael Jordan. I mean, any great athlete that has to sacrifice. I mean, did you see that documentary by chance?
Yeah. Yeah. It's great.
When
Yeah.
yeah, he's filming the movie, Space Jam, and he had like what all those. It's like if you and I were top-notch grapplers, and we're busy filming a movie or an instructional, and in between takes, I got freaking Keenan Cornelius or Gordon Ryan coming in to train with me to help me get ready for this next event. It's like, or even Arnold Schwarzenegger, the same thing. It's like
Yeah.
whatever that will and that drive and that determination is, you can accomplish some goals, man. But not all the time either. But
Yeah.
yeah, the Jordan one blew me away, man. I was just like, wow, for that guy. So yeah, being hurt and injured, I had a surgery,
Yeah.
cervical spine injury. Real close, they said, to being quadriplegic if I didn't get the
Wow.
surgery. Blah blah blah. And these doctors make it sound like you're changing a spark plug. We go in, we take it out, we put something else in, you go home the next day.
Right.
Well, I woke up from the first, oh yeah, and the surgery is 45 minutes long. I woke up from the first surgery, which was 4.5 hours long, I was told, and I couldn't move my left side from like my rib cage down, lost the whole left leg. And, they come back in like 8 hours later. We have to go back in and do whatever. We have to try to take some fluid or pressure off your spinal cord. 4.5 plus more hours of surgery. I wake up. Obama's the president now.
Oh my God.
I went to sleep. I was elected today. And I spent over 11 days in the hospital. They wanted me to stay there longer, but I wanted to go see Randy Couture fight Brock Lesnar. And so
Priorities, man.
I got out after 11 days, and they're like, well, you're on a year of disability. And within a month, I was on the mat grappling lightly, albeit
Lightly, yeah.
training. I got a lot of mixed reviews from doctors, and little by little over time, the use of my leg has come back. But for the last, since 2008, I've been dealing with this significant injury. I pretty much paralyzed on the left side of my body, and not like wheelchair bound, but it has come back, but not nearly what I was prior to my surgery.
Right. Right.
But
But
thank
you're
God
still
for,
in it, brother. You're still in it. I
yeah,
see you
yeah,
every day doing it, man. God bless you.
prior to COVID,
Yeah. Hey,
but
but you've adapted, like so many people have, man. You know what I mean? You're okay. You're not maybe doing the martial arts, but you're doing other things, man.
yeah. And,
You know what I
I'm
mean?
in awe. I see these athletes, I've seen athletes with no legs competing, I've seen, guys with one leg, and, or even Jean-Jacques Machado with his hand,
Right.
it's
Yeah.
amazing. But what I tell people is, it's different when you're fully functional and you're good at something, and then you lose that functionality and you have to come back from that point and rebuild it,
Yeah.
versus being born with a disability or a handicap and
Right. Right.
not knowing anything different but that, like those
But
people that can
that's normal
drive.
for you. Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen this lady that can draw and drive with her feet and eat and
Yeah.
order things, and she's using her toes like their fingers because, again, that's normal. God forbid you and I lose an arm or both arms at this stage of the game, I'm not going to use my feet to eat. It's just not going to happen,
Yeah.
especially with my left leg. But yeah, it was a very spiritual, humbling experience. Not that I was like a cocky a-hole or anything to begin with, but like definitely puts things in perspective. And yeah, it was quite a journey, man. It was quite a battle getting back to the point that I'm at now. And yeah, it never dawned on me to stop training. I was looking forward to going back in. But it's definitely a hindrance. Yeah, absolutely,
Yeah.
absolutely a hindrance. If you have a pitcher's arm and then you break your arm and you're trying to come back and you
Right.
can't throw the ball more than 5 feet, that's freaking discouraging, man.
Yeah.
And you may never throw it again like you once threw it. But if you can get past 5 feet, you're happy.
Yeah. All right, brother. Let's end it there because I don't want it to go too long. I want to be able to post it on some things that have restrictions for about an hour. But thank
Hmm.
you so much for coming on the show.
Thanks for having me. I